actually pronounce and spell our names correctly.
Gotcha.
Well, Wally, I appreciate you joining me from the trailer. How you doing, man?
No, not too bad. Running around, trying to keep things moving out here, but um, yeah, can't complain. Things are going smooth.
That's good. Well, and I mean, there's nothing more authentic than calling from a trailer.
Right.
Maybe, walk us through what kind of project you're working on, Wally.
Yeah, I'm out here at Ontario, California, working on a project for the city. It's a essentially they're calling it a city services building. So it's a three-story office space. It'll have a couple different departments that are internal to the city of Ontario that'll be
Hmm.
moving in once it's ready. So yeah, pretty much office space, pretty square in shape. Nothing too crazy, but it does have a lot of intricate structural detail. Has like a nice canopy and some unique solar stuff on the roof. So
There you
yeah,
go. Some
yeah, yeah.
fun elements. Well, so every now and then I ask people in my network, like, who's the best superintendent in your network,
Hmm.
and can I have a chat with them? And that's how we got introduced.
Nice.
So maybe just to start and kind of go through your story. So you spent a little time at Turner,
Yeah.
and you were in a different seat. So you're a VDC, on the VDC side of Turner, right? What was your did you like construction management background in college, or how did you get into construction originally?
Yeah, that's always an interesting one, right? It's kind of unique because my high school had architectural design as a
There you
like
go.
an elective path.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did sports for a couple years, and then I don't know. I just for some reason I was always interested in architecture, so I got out of that and gave architectural design a try. And the teacher that was running the program was pushing a lot of cutting edge tech. So that's what got me introduced to 3D modeling and the kind of the whole using software to create design and produce drawings and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, real early in my career, I kind of realized that there was a lot of value in that, just versus the drawing, the old school blueprinting and drawing, how they used to do it back in the day. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed that, and kind of always, I kind of always knew I was going to end up in some form of architecture, construction, design. I
Mm.
just didn't know exactly where I fit in. And then through college and kind of my exposure to the industry, I realized like I really don't fit this desk role, all too well. Like I like to get my hands dirty. I like to, be a part of, the action, kind of so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then when I got a taste of the field, that's really when I was like, oh shit, this is really what I've been looking for. This is the nice kind of in between where I can still be heavily involved in documents and how we bring this design to life. But then really I take it out there and get to run with it in the field and kind of quarterback, how we attack problems on a day-to-day basis to to put work in place. So yeah, I
I
found
love
that
that.
really rewarding.
Well, and typically from the VDC seat, so I work in Via Technic, and we do provide BIM VDC services for kind of all different angles of the AEC community.
Hmm.
And we often talk about how the folks that are driving maybe digital delivery, that the best ones have a field background, right? Whether you're PE, PM, superintendent. But the flip side of that is really healthy too, which is if you understand the kind of Revit and the intricacies of spatial coordination, then taking that know-how and translating it into how you drive physical construction, I can
Right.
imagine that's really beneficial. So what's that transition like been for you?
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the big thing is I have full confidence and faith that, what I'm looking at in the model is what I need to install.
Mm,
I think a big part of, why people hesitate sometimes is because they're like, oh, is this even accurate? Is this even the right thing? Does this even match my drawings? And just because I understand kind of how, from a design development standpoint, drawings and things get created, and then they get delivered to us to actually build. I'm not really like, questioning that. Like I mean, all I got to make sure I have is my current latest and greatest set of models, and then I know that I can measure from a wall to a wall in there, and I can, to some level of degree, have confidence that if I install it that way, that it'll be okay. I mean, I think there's definitely things that you got to back check and you got to do that, that double check. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And then, just the way that you're able to communicate and use that in the field is important too.
Mm.
Because, yeah, I mean, I run into guys that have never seen a model in their life, and their company has a whole detailing team and engineering team behind them that's putting together their shop drawings that they're gonna, build off of. Like it seems to, there's, I don't know. I mean, it seems like they keep those guys so busy, doing the work in the field that they never take the extra time to be like, hey, let's bring this guy in real quick, have him review
Yep.
this, and have
Get
him
them
become
upstream
familiar.
in the planning. Yep.
Yeah, because if he's familiar and he like understands, that this is also another tool for me to use, then he's gonna do that in the field, and I think that'll help ultimately push him in that direction so that he's using it and trusting it as a source of information for his installation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to always tell guys, hey, this is here for you, and if you need any help viewing it, is if that's what's keeping you from using it, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I'm here to, so like yeah, like yesterday for example, my structural steel guy has a bunch of questions about how the canopy ties to the parapet wall and how all those little parts and pieces come together. So it's the perfect opportunity to use that and really dig into this angle welds to this little plate that welds to this tube steel that then creates this whole fascia. So yeah, no,
So you're
I
pulling up Navisworks on your iPad. What was the forum like that you pulled that up in?
We use Procore as we use the model viewer tools in
Okay.
Procore. I have Navis on my computer because, I'm familiar with it,
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, the field guys have access through it in Procore.
Procore will be very excited to hear of your use of their model viewer.
Yeah.
Do you have a VDC manager from Bernard's on the site, or how do you
No.
guys implement BIM?
No, we do have a VDC manager that's involved with the coordination process. So he
Okay.
kind of he kind of quarterbacks that from I think he's doing a couple different projects. So he doesn't necessarily report to the site, which I will say I do. In my experience, that kind of helps bridge that gap even further. When you have that guy there as part of the team.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, and I was always an advocate for that when I was doing the VDC on my end, only because you're in the office, you're hearing the conversations, and you're like, oh wait, that's something that I could help you with because it's in my
Yeah.
model, it's in my whatever you're using to create or to detail or to make the changes. So
Yeah. You just kind of get exposure to the problems and challenges that you can kind of help solve for, huh?
exactly, no, yeah, definitely. So a lot of
Do you
value in that.
still do you still give that person, that VDC manager, a hard time to kind of stay true to the heritage of being a superintendent?
I mean, I'm still new at Bernard, so I haven't had too much exposure with him, but
Yeah.
I
You'll
should.
work your way into that.
I'll get there. I'll get there.
So, part of, I think, the history you and I talked about is you started your time in the industry at Turner,
Hmm.
obviously a much larger firm. What's been the difference that you've seen just in that transition from, one of the biggest to a regional contractor?
Yeah, there's definitely some kind of obvious ones. I mean, I think resources is a big one, right? Turner kind of had unlimited resources when it came to like, I feel like as a younger person, in construction, it's nice to have people that, can take the time to train you, can take the time to show you things. They have like the Turner University kind of thing, where there's all kinds of videos and it's really really hard to have a question that there is absolutely nothing for um, as far as like in their plethora of documentation that they house. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it. But also, I mean, I think coming into Bernard's, there was kind of a expectation too that this guy's been in the industry a certain amount of time. He should know how to do these things, right? So
Yeah.
I'd say like at Turner, there's, I don't want to call it hand holding, but there's definitely a bit more of the guidance and transition to making, like, it's harder to, I guess it's harder to fail is what I would say, right? Because there's all these people around you that are kind of supporting you, and that really creates kind of a safety net, I would say. Where at Bernard's, I do see that a little bit, a lot. I do see that less. I would say,
Yeah.
like, there's more expectation for me to, like, be self-sufficient, be doing what I need to be doing to accomplish my goal, and I think it'd be a little bit more challenging to get that level of support if I needed it. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, I do think it also creates opportunity to really shine at what you're good at. Like, if you really know what you're doing and how to do it, there's less kind of red tape, so to speak. And yeah, it lets you really kind of be a master of your own destiny and kind of run your work the way you think is the best way to do it. So
Yeah.
I think yeah, that's helped me a lot because the job I'm at, I got I'm pretty much the only field guy here, and I got like 40, 45 guys here. So having the background at Turner where I was able to learn really like the right way to do things, I guess you could say, and then being able to bring that here, I think has worked really well for me.
Yeah, I think that's a you said a few things there, and I think you kind of summarized that well. And I went through a similar transition in my career from a larger kind of firm to a smaller firm,
Hmm.
and you're right, like some of those guardrails aren't there,
Right.
and it's a little scary at first, but it creates opportunity for those with kind of high agency
Hmm.
to really do a bit more. What about with your VDC background, you probably have a bit more aptitude to try different tooling.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Superintendents are like, everyone wants to sell to a superintendent. Like, you are the person everyone wants to figure out, like, how, like, what do you what do
Yeah.
you read, are you on LinkedIn? Like, everyone wants to sell you on tech.
Yeah.
A couple questions in this category. One is, where do you get your industry news? Do you read, like, are you on LinkedIn? Are you
Yeah.
reading Construction Dive? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, yeah, I love to stay current with what's out there and what's developing and changing in the market.
Mm,
Especially now that AI is kind of hot and it's starting to make its way into our tech. Things are definitely changing quite a bit. So, I mean, last year I attended the ENR conference, so I like to do those if I get opportunity.
that's cool.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely staying on the cusp of it if I can.
That's good.
All right, sponsor break. Lars, real quick. When was the last time you got a new set of drawings from an architect and they didn't cloud anything?
Well, the one that cost me a couple hundred grand was back, I think, in 2017. So, yeah, lesson learned there.
Yeah, so what I like about what Trick Tools is building is they're looking at tools to help kind of remove the mundane from the job site. And I, same as you, every time there was a bulletin or an addendum, I would go back to the designers and ask them to at least highlight or give me a cover letter on the changes. And that was always like pulling like teeth. But Trunk Tools is now automating that. So you get a bulletin come in, it automatically highlights the changes. You don't have to do a thing.
Well, it's also hitting RFIs, right? It's also hitting submittals. And when we think about standardizing ops, right, and providing that, sort of resource to those field operators, what I see it as, it's sort of like this like mentor within the company that structures, standardizes, keeps it moving in the right direction, looks out for risk. And just this last week, I had a QC manager just pass along a submittal to an owner without doing a review because he was too busy, and it was wrong. And the classic owner statement is, "Did you even review this?" Right? So this to me is carte blanche. We absolutely did, and think about getting that first pass before your field manager ever even actually has to do the first pass. Someone's doing it for them. So to me, it's about speed. It increases accuracy and helps standardize ops out in the field, right?
Yeah, and this is the kind of AI that we've talked about on the
Yep.
podcast, really appreciating, right? Which is looking at ways to elevate the craftsman at the heart of project delivery.
Give me time back so I can be out in the field managing risk, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
100%. So, all right, if you're a little curious, check it out, trunktools.com/podcast. And if you mention Construction Conversations, you get a discount. Do it.
Discount demos are free, and and you guys get a discount. So let's
That's
go.
right.
Well, and I think you're unique somewhat in that way. And I think, there's kind of a bifurcation, it feels like, in the folks that are present in these kind of traditional kind of
Hmm.
forums, whether it be in, conference attendees or folks that kind of pay attention on LinkedIn. And then there's a big swath that just doesn't show up, but that different tech companies are trying to get after. What is, maybe in that light, are there any companies or firms that you guys are trialing or piloting on the project you're on right now that you're interested in?
Um, I've definitely been pushing for a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate for, for the tech, especially if it makes my job easier. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, I think part of the struggle too is, I think when we talked on the initial call, I mentioned that Bernard's does a lot of like hard bid, a lot of
Hmm.
tighter budgets, you know. So
Yep.
it's kind of harder to sway to sway people to, invest in those things. But no, yeah, I'm always pushing for, anything new that could be beneficial. Like, I think at Turner there was definitely more, um, they were more open to trying, things that were less proven, I guess you could say, more like on new up and coming, um, maybe the results aren't quite there, I think with Bernard's the approach is a little bit different, you want something that's a little bit more proven, that's a little
Yep.
bit more, you know what you're going to get results wise out of it, and it's kind of, um, uh, yeah, I would say it's, I think it's stuff that's easier to incorporate into our day to day, Whereas I think at Turner we were definitely doing a lot more R&D on, like for AI, for example, like Turner's trying to create their own AI versus Bernard's would probably just be okay trying tools on the market that are already kind of developing and proven to do what they say they do, Um,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Have
yeah, yeah.
you have you heard of Hardline is the company name?
I don't think I have, no.
I just actually read about them this morning.
Hmm.
And there's a big kind of effort recently to develop tech that helps kind of capture the kind of in between interactions. We've kind of captured documents, we've captured a lot of the workflow around documentation.
Hmm.
But like if you go call a foreman
Hmm.
and about an upcoming milestone, that conversation isn't captured,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of
Hmm.
expertise and experience that kind of gets passed back and forth.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
they have an app that sits in your phone, integrates into your calls, and after every call, it will like summarize what you talked about.
Hmm.
Like it'll route different action items, and it plugs into Procore.
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
didn't mean to do a full an ad read for Hardline, but at least from reading about what they're doing this morning, I
Yeah.
was intrigued. Does that do you have any like personal tech in your personal tech stack that you are finding kind of particularly useful in helping with your job?
I mean, I definitely use, GPT, Chat GPT to help me,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, just doctor up emails and make them look a little more structured and professional. Especially
Hmm.
when I'm doing them on the fly on my phone or whatever, So,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, I've definitely heard of a few different kind of, um, daily log kind of, you kind of tell it your, your what you accomplished that day, and it helps you kind of like a diary, sort of, so to speak, but through AI that, I've heard is really beneficial because, again, like you're saying, it stores all that and makes it accessible, down the line. So I knew a guy that was on my last job doing that regularly, and it seemed like it was going very well for him. So I was curious to try it, but I'm old school, man. I got my I got my little notebook that I keep, and I'm just I'm just so used to writing it. Because my thing is, if I write it, I know I remember it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't
I
know.
think that's
It
I
might
think
take
that's
me a
fair. I
little bit.
mean, the founding fathers had to think about the more senses that are engaged as you're interacting with information, the better you're
Right.
going to remember it, right? I think there's something to writing because of that. One thing I would challenge you to do though is like think of Wally in 30 years
Sure.
and all the information that you have and you're
No,
interacting with
definitely,
now, and
definitely.
just like add a voice capture component, even if it's like Apple voice memos,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because creating your digital self, a second version of you,
Right.
is going to become increasingly relevant.
Oh, definitely. No, yeah, I've been thinking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
hardline, you're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah, check it out. I mean, I can't, I haven't talked to the founders. I don't know them beyond I looked through their website.
Sure. No, yeah.
But they've built something interesting. Um, Back to the BIM front, with your kind of perspective of spending time in the BIM world and now in the field,
Hmm.
what do you think is like what a field like what is this most useful thing a super could do with the model on their
Mm.
project next week that they're maybe kind of missing?
I mean, yeah, like I said, just using it, just viewing it,
Yeah.
using it, making sure it's just another place to cross-reference what you're installing. Like if you have drawings, I would even challenge to say looking at the model and finding a discrepancy between the model and the drawings is a big thing there too, because it could mean that the model is for some reason further updated than what
Yeah.
your shop drawings are saying. So yeah, no, I mean I think just the fact that guys don't even look at it or don't even know it exists is kind of is really bad.
Well, and you mentioned being able to trust it, but I imagine you can do that because one, you know the process, and I
Hmm.
imagine you're pretty intentional about engaging in the process.
Hmm.
What is your involvement in the coordination process look like as a superintendent?
As a superintendent, yeah, no, I'm definitely trying to sit in on all those meetings, on all those calls where we have the designers coordinating. Um, if there's clashes and I can easily view them like a clash report, I'm trying to filter through that myself just to put eyes on what, kind of where the coordination is at, how far they're progressing, and what kind of hits we're getting. If I'm seeing a lot of structural, a lot of big, kind of things that I think are going to create major money issues. And that's kind of when I'm trying to step in even further, and yeah, just get more involved. Sometimes I'll even fly the model myself and create my own clashes. Procore kind of allows for that. Any
Hmm.
any user that has access to the combined model can create their own issues. So if for some reason I see something in there and I'm like, hey, this looks off, I'll put a note in there so that next meeting, even if I'm not a part of it, they're able to talk about it on the design side.
Hmm.
I think the other thing that's big too is making sure your architect is part of those meetings. I think a lot of times we have these meetings internally as just the guys that are building it and doing shop drawings, but I think it's very beneficial when stuff comes up that's architectural that guy's there too, because then um, it makes everybody's more time valuable.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the velocity of information back and forth.
Hey guys, if your experience was anything like mine when I was a PM, change orders were kind of a pain. You send the change order, then you spend the next 2 weeks chasing it. Subs are texting you updates. Meanwhile, you have a change order log buried in email. Your spreadsheet doesn't match theirs, and you're just trying to figure out what's actually been approved. Meanwhile, your subs are waiting on answers so they can get paid. The owner doesn't really have the visibility they need into cost exposure, and nobody finds out that the numbers don't reconcile at all until closeout. At which point, everyone suddenly disagrees about everything. That's not a people problem, it's a systems problem. Everybody on the job is working out of their own setup. Your ERP, their spreadsheet, someone else's inbox. Change orders end up getting stuck in the middle of all of it. Well, ClearStory fixes that. It's a shared cloud based change order log where GCs, specialty contractors, and owners all see the same information in real time, which is key. Subsubmit and track their work. GCs stay on top of status. Owners see cost exposure before it becomes a surprise. No more digging through email trying to reconcile the logs at closeout. Just change orders
under control, which is a unique concept. Check it out at clearstory.build.
What maybe switching hats a little bit, as a superintendent now, understanding what the VDC side deals with,
Hmm.
what do you think the VDC side misses that you wish they would better understand?
Schedule. I think the big thing is
Mm.
a lot of times we say we're going to do, like for example, this particular job I'm on, from the beginning, they were like, oh, it's going to be a 2 month coordination cycle. Okay, 8 weeks, and it's 3 stories, and we know we're at this stage when we start, right? If that's really what we want to hold them to and that's what we're going to agree to, then my expectation is, as a super, you're communicating to me, hey, this day level one will be due, this day level one will be signed off, this day level one shop drawings will be in, this day level one shop drawings will be approved and ready for install. And I want all those days in my schedule, so that I'm tracking. And if for some reason, I'm asking about this and that, and they're telling me, hey, this is slipping, then I'm capturing, how it's moving in the schedule, and if it's going to be detrimental to my installation. So I try to make sure from an early, stage, that they're aware of when my drop dead dates are, for certain things, and that they're gonna meet my schedule. Otherwise, we need to rethink how we build the building, to work with, the design. So I think a lot of times people don't do a good job of integrating the two together the way that they should be, especially on design
Mm.
build. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done design build jobs where, the design catches the construction, and now you're totally, shot. Now you're waiting. Now construction's waiting, and people are delayed, and instead of saving the owner money and speeding up the outcome, we're costing the job a bunch of money and unable to recover in the end. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's a few nuggets there. I think the it is pretty powerful that we, from a VDC angle, we're constantly asking to have the digital be respected in the same way that the physical building is, and
Definitely.
yet, we at times can kind of ignore the fact that schedule slippages in terms of model content delivery or in sign-offs are going to have real world impacts. And so I think
Hmm.
that's a really good reminder of, hey, if we're going to respect the digital, we need to respect the impact of the digital on the physical, in that same way.
Definitely. Yep.
That's good. So, I think another thing I wanted to kind of dig into is, we talk a lot about tech and AI and the way it's going to make your life easier, right?
Yeah.
Like, in
Huh?
theory, like, you're the recipient of a lot of the productivity and efficiency gains, that, at
Hmm.
least that's what we talk about in like
Yeah, that's
conferences,
what they
right?
say,
And
right?
commercials. Yeah. And so 2026, we've got a lot of tech, like, yeah, many billions of dollars have been invested in tech and construction. How is your life easier in 2026 than it was maybe, in previous years? Like, obviously you're going through a job change from in terms of what you're focusing
Yeah.
on, but like, how, I imagine, from at least even just the back and forth, you seem like a very busy person.
Hmm. Hmm.
What is the state of being a super like in 2026?
I mean, yeah, kind of like I mentioned before, I still think, adopting the tech is kind of key. Not just for me, but for everybody around me as well.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, like I said, there's definitely things that I use, day in and day out, that I feel help me. Like I'm always looking at the model, always, using. I think Procore now has some AI features too, that we use in house. Some, it's basically search bars. That you can ask questions, produces answers that, typically you'd have to do a little more digging. I know internally our company uses, Data Grid. They're trying to get that, more out into the field.
Mm.
And I think that's also similar. It kind of queries your, your data and your folders and whatever you kind of feed it, and then it's able to produce answers, in that retrospect. So I think, more and more we're going to start to see that be used in the field, like as guys, are aware that it's available. because I will say, like, we do get guys with different levels of understanding of drawings, and where to find things, and what, even just tech in general, right? So when it's as easy as, like, I could talk to my phone like Siri, and just ask a question, I think people are going to enjoy the simplicity of that, and it'll become real popular here real quickly. Um, but yeah, I mean, outside of that, I mean, I still I still think it's going to be a little bit of a hurdle, to get a lot of the other more sophisticated things deployed, like like, I mean, I've seen everything from automatic layout bots to drones flying themselves and doing, reality capture area, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I do see the value in it, but I just think that from a construction investment standpoint, right, and budgeting and all that, you gotta see the value on how much you're spending versus, what impact does it create in the field. And if nobody's really using it but one guy, then it's really hard to justify spending all that money on that one thing. So yeah, I think as more people start to become exposed and adopt and kind of rely on these tools, then that'll help more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're pinpointing on an issue of who should own kind of innovation at the project level, which
Hmm.
is, hey, you want to try new tech, but if you're contract constrained to a fairly slim margin already,
Hmm.
then, you're not going to be engaging with some of the latest stuff available.
Definitely not.
But I think it goes back to a question of like, well, there's an owner question, like, hey, should there be kind of an innovation budget on each of these
Hmm.
projects?
Hmm.
But also, like, can the tech community get more creative in how they deploy some of this stuff? um how, maybe staying on the kind of tech train here for a second, has deployment, because you talked about little, the difficulties of change management and actually implementing tech
Hmm.
successfully being
Hmm.
a kind of a key criteria for success, which I agree. Has has that gotten better? Or are tech companies getting better at saying, hey, Wally, here's our latest product, here's how it, integrates into your day to day, and oh, like, the implementation's fairly seamless? Or has it not gotten better?
Um, yeah, no, well, one thing you did touch on that I also wanted to say was, yeah, I think a lot of it is driven from the owner side too. Like, if an owner is very heavy on innovation, like, and then they, especially with digital twins, and kind of how maintenance and even beyond just construction, right? How buildings are, used, maintained, um, all that good stuff. Yeah, I think that's what creates a lot of opportunity to use that really high end, cutting edge stuff. Is when
Yeah.
the owner sees, hey, I'm going to receive this at the end of the job that I'm going to use, for the life of this whole building, for the life of this asset, so to speak. And I think
Hmm.
that's when you really start to see, like, oh, we're going to integrate, all this high end, cutting edge stuff, you know. Um, so yeah, no, yeah, definitely working with smaller jobs for the city, it's hard to it's really hard to sway them and be like, hey, I think, investing, 10, 15 grand on this is a great idea. um
Yeah, we'll have the owner's rep for the city of Ontario on next, and try to convince them.
no, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, if they can support it, they do try, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a little difficult in that situation. um but
How much margin, or more importantly, how many headaches have you had as a result of margin lost to something that was buried in the documents? A requirement in the spec that didn't match the contract, a flow down clause that shifted risks nobody caught, a conflict between drawings and addenda that showed up 3 months too late as a denied change order. I'm sure each of you guys are experiencing a bit of the cold sweats just thinking about some of those scenarios. So these aren't rare events, as you know. They happen on nearly every project, and most projects just absorb the loss because there hasn't been a better way to manage it. That's what Document Crunch is changing. So, Document Crunch is the AI risk management platform built for you guys. It reads construction documents the way your best expert would, identifying and verifying risk with answers you can trust and trace. The trace part of that is really important, as we found with some of these other AI tools out there. Here's what makes it different from general AI. Crunch AI verifies before it answers. Every answer traces back to the exact document, page, and clause it came from. So when your decision gets tested in an OAC meeting or a change order dispute, you know you are on solid ground. It's not just about finding a risk, it's about making sure risk is identified, tracked, and acted on, so nothing gets lost between pre-con and the field. Construction has accepted preventable loss as a cost of doing business for far too long. Document Crunch is setting a new standard. Learn more at documentcrunch.com/construction conversations. Check them out.
What was that other question you were asking?
Mainly if the tech community has gotten better at implementing their tech. Because
Oh, yeah, yeah,
like if
like
I think
integrating
about,
it.
yeah, I think back to my own time, like one of the things I was good at was kind of closing that gap of, okay, I understood the upside of this tech,
Mm,
and I understood the dynamics of the project I was working on, and I could convince a group of people to kind of make the change and embrace the change.
right.
And I think the challenge that the tech communities had historically is their customer success folks haven't always had the domain expertise needed to
Mm,
really implement that well, and
yes,
and it creates this disconnect with the project. It's that like last mile delivery of value is always difficult,
right.
but I think there's been a focus on bringing domain expertise into that kind of customer success org.
Hmm,
And I guess the
hmm.
question is like, are you feeling that?
Um, I think, I mean, like I said, I'm not really using too much crazy stuff out here at this
Yeah.
the job that I'm at now. But no, yeah, definitely at Turner, you get dedicated folks that are available for, training or um, uh, um, helping you, guide you through how to adopt and how to implement their tech. So usually, no, yeah, I mean, if you're able to use that the right way, I think it's beneficial. But
Mm,
I think, yeah, it all boils down to are the people actually gonna, open it on their computer and use it for what it's designed to be used for. So like, I think a good example is I so I'm a big advocate for, well, I like it, drone deploy. I've used drone deploy quite a bit in the past,
yeah.
and I really like the different features that they have. So there was a job at Turner where they were between, a couple different types of tech to, do reality capture and progress tracking, and I was able to get those guys on board. But what I did to take it a step further is I made sure to host, like two or three different like trainings for the engineers and the team there locally, and even ownership attended at some point.
Mm,
Where I was really open about like everybody has access to this, use it. If you need me to sit next to you and walk you through it, I'll do that. If you need me to, guide you through this. If you need me to get the drone deploy rep out here, this, and I was pushing very heavily for adaptation. Because I knew I wasn't going to be on that job forever. I was there, for a 6 month stint, and I
yeah.
wanted to make sure they were getting the ultimate best value out of that product.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, with I think without like me having done that, then the success rate would have been a lot a lot lower. um,
yeah. I mean that kind of advocacy at a project level or kind of at an implementation level is really powerful.
yeah.
Um, So, I don't want to take too much of your time because you're literally building a building.
You're okay. No,
But
yeah, I got the whole hour, but
okay,
no worries.
I think one other maybe angle on this is the the industry is kind of bifurcated in a number of ways, and there's a lot of different silos and fragments. Um, how much when you look at whether it's tech adoption or whether you look at like kind of BIM versus field divide. Have you mainly worked on vertical work? Have you worked on any kind of horizontal infrastructure, like road work kind of stuff?
A little bit. I've done quite a bit of utility work, so
Okay,
there's been a few projects where I've had to, go out, tear up the streets, and pave them back.
there you
Um,
go.
yeah, yeah.
If you were going to build,
Hmm,
if someone handed you a blank check
hmm.
and you could make one app, what app would it be? Like, what would you sell for?
Mm, I mean, in all honesty, the one that's really been helping me on the construction side that I really enjoy is CM Builder.
Mm,
So if you're familiar with kind of like that 3D logistics type of an app that helps you kind of do a lot of scenario planning, create a lot of, I mean, it's technically just 3D logistics, but um, I, yeah, I find a lot of value in that, especially when you're in meetings with ownership.
yeah.
If you can really help paint that picture clearly, it kind of puts people at ease to a further level than just, you know, uh, talking about it. So yeah, I will say when I was at Beverly Hills, I did use that app quite a bit to do a lot of overlays versus underground work because they wanted to know exactly how it was going to impact their streets, right? Foreclosures and
Mm,
a lot of the work went into the Santa Monica nice fancy retail area over there. So they were
yeah.
wondering like, yeah, when you're out here, for how long? Where are your cones going to be? Where are your trenches going to be? How much of my road are you closing off? How are, in the peak hours of the day, how are people going to get around all this work happening, at, at the same time? So being able to stage that in that app and really paint the picture, overlay the drawings, show the trenches, show the cones, show the equipment, like that's been really valuable. And I think what's
Mm,
cool too is that that type of a software allows you to integrate a lot of different things into one. I'm taking plans, I'm taking if I have aerial drone scans, I can bring that in. If I have Google imaging maps and all that stuff, I'm bringing that in. If something's missing, I can create it in Blender and bring that in.
mm.
Um, yeah, there's just a lot of power in being able to combine everything in one place and have it, align relatively close to where it actually matches the real world. Hmm.
Well, Wally, you are like the field early adopter that every tech company dreams about interacting with.
Maybe
So,
just a little bit.
um, I think to finish up, I think I'd be interested to hear your take on like advice to your former self.
Hmm.
So, from what you know now, stepping back in time, you start in the VDC kind of world at Turner. What would it be the advice you'd give to that younger former self?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, other than invest in Bitcoin and AI, right?
Yeah, there you go.
But no, I think in the work that we do and the industry that I'm in, knowledge is power. And at the end of the day, um, we build the everything that we do is to support the guy that's out there putting part A on part B on part C to then get the final project built. So I think when I was young, I was kind of hesitant to go the field route and kind of because I didn't see myself as a guy that was just I don't know. Coming out of college, I was thinking I was gonna have a different role,
Mm,
position. So I think I just wouldn't be afraid of that. I would tell myself, hey, the knowledge that you gain out there, nobody could ever take that from you because
mm.
that's the bread and butter of what we do. And having that in your back pocket is more valuable than anything, downstream of that. So I think I'd be, telling myself, jump at all those opportunities where they're putting
Yeah.
you, to run some field work, something you've never done. Take that chance and do that and gain everything you can knowledge wise out of that, and then someday that'll benefit you even further than what the immediate is.
Man, that is absolute gold, Wally, and I agree. It's like get as close to the work as possible as early in your career as possible, and the skills and the knowledge acquired will only kind of compound from there.
Exactly.
Well, Wally, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you taking some time in the middle of your day.
Anytime.
Yeah.
I'm
Any
happy
other?
happy to be able to talk to you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Steven. Bye bye.